Alright guys, so you are moving to Boston. In this video I'm going to be covering 19 things that you must know before moving here, including the fact that we are not all a bunch of R-dropping Irishmen with roots in Galway. Stay tuned. Hey, what's up guys? My name's Andrew Junis. I'm a local realtor right here in the Boston metro area, and I love helping people find their ideal place to live. So if you are moving here, please drop me a line. Call, text, email, shout it from the rooftops. I'm going to be here and ready to help when you are. And if this is your first time to the channel, please remember to hit the subscribe button and also click the little bell down below so you get notified anytime I do a new video. Alright, so like I said, you are getting ready to move to Boston here, and these are the things that you need to know. Number one is get ready to walk. Most of Boston's downtown neighborhoods and major attractions are within walking distance of each other. And yeah, you can drive, but with a city whose roads are not vehicle friendly and always congested, get out that pair of comfortable shoes, right? Make sure that you have your map apps up to date and get to walking. Number two, should you own a car? Well, unless you're commuting to places far outside the city, you can pretty much survive without a car in Boston. In fact, most residents walk and use the city's and region's transit system called the T. Now it's old and every once in a while it breaks down, but overall it's very extensive and I'd say fairly reliable. Besides, good luck finding a non-metered or visitor parking spot in Boston. And if you do find a spot, I guarantee that even if you're 1 minute late to your car, you're going to get a ticket, right? Parking enforcement in Boston is one of the most aggressive in all the country. And on top of that, Bostonian drivers can be a bit aggressive, shall we say? So the driving culture itself takes a while to get used to. So you might not want to get behind that wheel anyway. Alright, number three, there are tons of universities and colleges in Boston, right? Boston is most definitely a college town. And each year the streets get flooded with over 150,000 students. So the city and the surrounding communities, including Cambridge, Newton, are home to places like Harvard University, MIT, Tufts, BC, BU, Emerson, Northeastern, and a whole host more, right? And almost all are connected by the public transit, so it's easy to get from one to another. Number four, Boston is home to techies and scientists. Now Boston and Cambridge, which is right next door to Boston on the other side of the Charles River, have developed into a life sciences and tech mecca in recent decades, attracting biopharmaceutical and tech giants like Novartis, Moderna, Pfizer, Merck, Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. Also, there are hundreds of science and tech startups, particularly in and around Cambridge's Kendall Square, which is an internationally recognized innovation district. In fact, Kendall Square has been called the most innovative square mile on the planet in reference to the high concentration of entrepreneurial startups and high quality innovations which have emerged in the vicinity of the square. And number five, Fenway Park is not just a baseball park, it is a shrine. If you have the chance to check out the 100-plus-year-old Major League Stadium, which is baseball's oldest stadium, it's definitely worth a visit. If you can get tickets, right? The Red Sox usually regularly sell out, although of late, the team's poor play has made it a little bit easier to get tickets. And the Sox also offer non-game day tours of the stadium, and during the summertime, the park is going to host a couple different concerts as well, so a couple different ways that you can get there. Number six, around these parts, Bill Belichick is somewhat of a god. And you can forget about Spygate and Deflategate and his generally surly attitude. Like, if you don't know him, despite all the success as a head coach that he's had at the Patriots, Bill really can be a grump, a curmudgeon, right? But overall, the combination of Belichick and Tom Brady, our Hall of Fame best quarterback ever, they brought us 6 championships, right? We've had 20 years of unparalleled success around here with them. So there's not much criticizing going on for him, except maybe now that Brady's gone and the way he handled that. But save that for another time. That's still a little too raw, considering Brady just won one down in Tampa that I was happy for, but, considering he's still got gas in the tank, I'm sure a lot of fans like me wish he was still here. Number seven, Boston is a financial hub. In fact, in the 1800s, mutual funds got their start in Boston by serving wealthy whaling captains who were at sea for years and couldn't manage their money on a day-to-day basis. Today, Fidelity Investments, Eaton Vance, Putnam Investments, State Street, Wellington Management, and others call Boston home. Number eight, Boston has good food, right? Like many other American cities, Boston's restaurant scene has taken off in recent decades, with many award-winning chef-owned restaurants sprouting up across the city. There's still the old classics like Marley Ave, Green Dragon Tavern, Cafe Vittoria, and Amrain's. But you can also check out the vibrant restaurant scenes in Boston's North End, South End, and Back Bay, where you can find standouts like Tasting Counter, Uni, Asta, SRV, Oh Yeah, Sarma, Field and Vine, Barley On, and just a ton of others, right? Number 9, the weather kind of sucks. But, New England weather is notoriously fickle, for sure. Now, everybody raves about the fall, which typically has the best weather, but summers are hot and humid, and the springs are filled with a lot of gray and rainy days. And winters especially can be cold, dark, and snowy. Now, on the plus side, ski country is nearby with Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And even if you can't ski, hanging out at a cozy lodge like the Trapp Family Lodge in Stowe, Vermont, with a crackling fireplace, some good food and drinks, it's not a bad way to spend time with family and friends. Number 10, getaways. One of the great things about Boston is the ability to get away by not having to travel too far. We've got Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Newport, Rhode Island, the lakes and mountains of New Hampshire and Vermont, and the rocky coastlines of Maine are all close by. In fact, many are accessible by trains, buses, and water ferry. And keep in mind that New York is only a 3.5-hour car ride or train ride away as well. Number 11, the cost of living is high. No shocker there, right? Boston is one of the most expensive cities in the U.S. Now, the city's downtown is undergoing a residential building boom, but it's not nearly enough to keep up with the demand and tamp down housing prices. Former Mayor Marty Walsh had called for 53,000 more housing units to be in the city by 2030, but, I honestly wonder how much of an impact that's going to have. Where today the median home price in Boston is $665,000. All right, number 12, history is everywhere, right? Boston is a history buff's dream. The city is full of historic landmarks and venues. Much of it's tied to the colonial era and the American Revolution. And in fact, you'll find locals and visitors alike walking the Freedom Trail, which is the 2.5-mile red brick line leading to 16 nationally significant historic sites. It was dedicated by the citizens of Boston back in 1951, and is really a unique collection of museums, churches, meeting houses, burying grounds, parks, a ship, the U.S. Constitution, and other historic markers that tell the story of the American Revolution and beyond. All right, number 13 is the Boston accent, right? Thanks to TVs and movies, outsiders might think we're all a bunch of R-dropping Irish transplants with surly attitudes. But Boston is an international city with nearly 1/3 of its population coming from somewhere else, where they don't necessarily drop their R's, right? So while you definitely can still hear a Boston accent, it's not as pervasive and prevalent as it once was, and certainly not as much as TV and movies make it out to seem to be. Now, a funny story is I lived in Denver for a year, and at the time I had a girlfriend who liked hearing a thick Boston accent, and she would from time to time say, "Hey, can you talk to me with that accent?" I personally thought I sounded kind of stupid, but what do I know, right? "Yeah, baby, let's hop in the car, go to the Packies, and pick up some PBR tolls." How's that? Number 14, the roads suck, right? And you can blame that on a road system built for cows and people, not cars. I mean, sometimes even the streets make absolutely no sense. In fact, Bostonians tend to use landmarks when giving directions, right? Go straight till you hit the Dunks, then take a left at the Packies, a right at the Rotary. And you get it. I mean, you get the idea, right? Number 15, we might have an attitude. Now, people who live around here are probably more cynical and sarcastic than most, and that can definitely make them seem unfriendly, certainly unapproachable. But it doesn't mean they aren't good people, right? A good friend of mine told me a story once of two guys who were walking down the street shouting and swearing at each other, and they saw an old lady that had fallen down, and they were the first ones to go run over to her and help her up. They probably started fighting again after that, but, Number 16, Dunkin' Donuts rules. Now, I don't know if America runs on Dunkin', but Boston certainly does, right? Dunkin' Donuts started in the area shortly after World War II, and Bostonians, and really New Englanders, are fiercely loyal to it. Most find the coffee to be pretty smooth, not bitter and burnt, which is a common complaint when it comes to, Starbucks coffee, right? And in fact, in blind taste tests conducted by Consumer Reports, Starbucks consistently rates as some of the worst tasting coffee, and Dunkin's as some of the best. And, let's face it, locals will swear there is nothing more satisfying than a freshly brewed cup of Dunk's coffee in the morning. Or any time of day, really. Number 17, last call comes early in Boston. And, by law, most bars and restaurants in Boston have to close by 2 a.m. Now, the last two mayors have talked about extending bar hours, but it never seems to go anywhere. And issues like the impact it would have on college students are often cited. Also, as it stands, the T closes at 12:30, 1 o'clock. So it's kind of leaving a lot of people stranded, right? Back in 2014, the T expanded ridership hours to 2 a.m., but they claimed it was not financially sustainable because not enough people were riding at that time. And it's really too bad because it impacts the late night workers who, if they're relying on public transportation, it means they have to take an Uber or cab home, which can cost significantly more than their T and really cut into their wages. All right, number 18 is easy airport access to Logan International Airport. Right, the airport itself is wicked close to downtown. It's just across the Boston Harbor in East Boston, and without traffic, it's like a 10-minute drive. Now, I used to live in Denver, and it would take about, 45 minutes or so to get to the airport, which made it seem like it was in the middle of nowhere, because it kind of is. Now, Boston's Logan is also accessible by subway, bus, and water ferry. And, the airport, it's an international airport, so it flies to many destinations non-stop, including places like Beijing and Hong Kong, Tokyo, Istanbul, Mexico City, and Tel Aviv. And finally, number 19, Boston, it's not Beantown, right? Bostonians don't refer to their city this way, okay? It's what tourists call it, and it's a surefire way to let someone know you ain't from around these parts. All right, guys, there you have it. 19 must-knows that will put you ahead of the game and acting like a seasoned Bostonian before you ever step foot here. Like I said, my name's Andrew Junis. I'm a local realtor right here in the Boston metro area. And if you are thinking about moving here, please reach out to me. Call, text, email, shout it from the rooftops. I'm going to be ready whenever you are to help. And again, please remember, if this is your first time, to subscribe to the channel and click the little link below so that you get notified anytime I do new videos. And I will be doing at least one video a week, all about Boston, the surrounding area. The good, the bad, the ugly, some really cool stuff. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Reach out with any questions. And until next time, take care.